Hi all, welcome to the Brothers in Business podcast. Today we're going to be talking about successful mindsets. Now, I know that both of us have really had to focus on this one from day dot because, like we've touched on in the past, we've had to work right the way, from the bottom of the barrel all the way up, and it's hard to kind of see the future when you're working, at the start of the ladder.
Love that.
So it's difficult to see the top when you're right at the bottom. So it's keeping clear goals. Again, we've discussed it so many times. Writing these down, and for me, it's determination. And I've had issues myself with customers where there's been an issue, and this is a big customer of ours, and it felt like everything was going to just fall apart. You're going to lose the customer. And at that stage, when you're really feeling down, you could easily just you just go into a ball and just say, oh God, this isn't going to work, or it's just not going to happen. But I had to then think, no, we can't do that. We need to face it head on. I had to call, the vice president of a pretty big company and eat humble pie really, and tell him what we were going to do to fix the problem. And I think that's one of the big things for me. And when I did that, you kind of see that it's not as bad as it seems, but it's because you've got that mindset. And I know that you've probably had some things very similar to that as well.
I love that. No, I think determination's a massive one in success, because it's something that people don't realize how difficult the journey is. And you're going to go through these hardships. There's going to be so many times and so many occasions that both of us can remember for each other that we've had to go through, that we could have easily ran away, retreated, buried our head in the sand, let somebody else deal with it. And when you're in business or when you want to be successful, it's recognizing when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And that's something that most people have forgotten nowadays. They've thought to themselves, well, actually, that sounds like a lot of work, or that sounds hard, so I'm just going to not bother, or I'm going to retreat. I'm going to do something else. It's something that's plaguing our generation currently quite massively. So I absolutely love that one. Determination, I think, is a really good one.
Yeah, they definitely pass the baton on as if it's like a relay. It's like, here you go, this is to you now, like hot potato, and you just it doesn't work. And all that it does is, again, we've seen it. If someone's in a role and they just don't want to deal with it, you're only ever going to stay within that role. You're never going to be able to branch out. And again, you've got the wrong mindset.
Completely agree. I think the other big one, and this one sort of latches onto that, we've just touched on it, is the amount of complaining people do. And I know I'm shooting myself in the foot because I'm complaining now, but stop complaining. Everybody just needs to start to take responsibility for themselves a little bit. And I think it leads on to, like I said, my next point, where everybody looks to blame everybody else for their problems. And I think another big thing in success, I'm sure you'll agree, is that sort of self-accountability that people, for some reason, again, have lost in a modern society. Everybody wants to blame somebody else, the government for their problems, their employer for not getting enough money, their parents for not giving them the right opportunity, their teachers at school for not doing a good job. It's never their fault. And I think one of the most important traits of anybody that's actually made it to any level of success is that self-accountability, and realizing that they are the ones to blame for their failures, but also the ones to blame for their successes as well. You've got to be able to understand and give yourself a pat on the back, but it is that kind of proud but never satisfied sort of thing. Most successful people that I see and that I know personally, they hit a goal, they hit a target, and they think to themselves, what's next? What's the next goal? What's the next target that I can now achieve? And sometimes when you've set a big goal, one of the big ones for this was Tyson Fury. I remember him sort of achieving his big goal of becoming a heavyweight champion. And instead of looking forward, instead of looking for his next goal and target to hit, he hit a massive wall, and he just ended up having this real bad battle with his mental health. So again, goal setting, self-accountability is massive.
Yeah, and you could see with that same example, when he realigned, reset a goal, and then worked towards that goal, he's then executed it and then ended up getting to the top of the tree again. And it all comes down to, again, that same mindset. And it's the hard work that you got to put in. And sometimes it can start with just mopping floors, and you might work a 9 to 5, but to stand out, and the successful mindsets are, yeah, you're working 9 to 5, but I tell you what, let's arrive in half an hour early and let's leave half an hour late. Start with something small and say, look, what else can I do? I know I'm just mopping floors at the minute, but I want to do a bit more than just mop floors. Is there anything else I can do with this extra half an hour of making up, before I'm getting in or after I'm staying late? I think it's important.
Yeah, I love it. I think sacrifice is kind of where you're touching on there. So another big successful characteristic and trait is sacrifice. People nowadays don't want to sacrifice a second of their time to do anything that they don't want to do. So it's almost, again, this whole trade-off. Success is something that's earned. It's not given. You have to go out there and take it. And it's not something that you are ever going to get by plodding along on sort of passive mode, not really putting much effort in, not really taking any time to work at your profession or your skill, your job, and actually sacrifice something. Success takes sacrifice. Anybody that's ever achieved any level of success, whether it's Elon Musk, he didn't get there by working 9 till 5. He slept under his desk. He worked 7 days a week and he was married to his job. Now, it depends on the level of success that you want, because there is a trade-off for that. You lose so much time in your own personal life. Relationships can become affected. And again, that's why we've done an episode recently on working with family, because then you get to keep those relationships and it's a benefit of that. But for me, people that are looking for a level of success, if you want to be earning 6 figures, 7 figures and have a successful business, the reality is the sacrifice that you're going to have to make is weekends are gone. Certain relationships are gone. The money in your bank account is gone. Fancy clothes are gone. Cars are gone for a short period of time. And you've got to have a long-term mindset and understand that the sacrifice in the short term, if it's genuinely what you want, then the short-term sacrifice is worth it for the long-term gain.
Yeah, because there's no such thing as anyone who's just woke up one morning, walked into a building and gone, oh, bloody hell, I'm a multimillionaire now. I don't know how that happened.
I wish.
That could be brilliant, but, it doesn't happen. It's like...
Well, then everybody would do it.
Well, yeah, exactly. And there can only be so many entrepreneurs, because there's always got to be so many workers to fill the roles for the entrepreneurs, for them to fulfill their goals.
But the reality is you decide where you want to be.
Yeah, you can be a worker ant or the queen ant.
Interesting way of putting it. But yeah, no, it's right. It's like you said, you position yourself in a company or in your own life. And I go back to that self-accountability. It's you are responsible for the outcomes that you get in your own life. If you are in a position that you're not happy with, you are the one that's responsible for changing it at the end of the day, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like, when I was working behind a bar and I had a manager telling me, you don't even want to know, but
I do actually. What did she say?
She'd say I was shit at this and I was the worst. She lined me up in front of every other employee and said, you are the worst employee I've ever employed. And I'm going, what do you mean? I think she expected me to pull...
I've worked with you for 10 years, I agree.
But she wants me to run an entire bar, and then, if anyone's worked behind a bar, it's, the slips come out and you got to fill the slips, fill the people at the bar, and she's put one person on. It's like, it can't be done. But so maybe she needs management courses for herself.
How do you best get your payback, not only for yourself, to sort of prove a wrong?
Well, I actually did prove her wrong, and I actually went back after, becoming successful in what we're doing, ordered a pint. She wanted to check a note that I gave her to make sure it was real, held it up to the light and said, oh yeah, no, that looks okay. Put it in the till, took it back out, did that 3 times, ripped it a bit, put it back in the till and said, no, I'm not taking the money. And I told her, what are you talking about? And I had to tell her to, politely F off. And that's one way that I literally did tell her to sort of stick it to her, because she just wasn't very good.
Well, it's more the success, right? It's more like the path to success that you embarked on afterwards. Like, so I'll toot your horn for you. It's obviously being modest, but you left that job really with somebody telling you that you're an idiot, somebody telling you you're the worst employee that they've ever had. And you've got two choices. You either bury your head in the sand, you mope around, you complain, and you give in to what people tell you. And actually, what you did instead was grow a pair, join a business. Yes, it was something that obviously we were fortunate enough to have our dad's business to actually go into. But you joined a business that allowed you to work your arse off, become the best employee within that business and not the worst, and actually put the time and effort in to do that, and the sacrifice, the hard work, the determination. And you didn't just bury your head in the sand. And again, everybody's become so soft. And it's something that people get told that they can't do things or that they're not good enough. And they immediately just fall into this mindset of agreeing with them. Do you know?
Because it's easier.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where people nowadays are happy to accept they are who people tell them they are. And I just find that insane. You are who you say you are. Like, at the end of the day, you are in control of your own future. You're in control of yourself. Nobody else is. Somebody tells me I'm not good enough, I laugh in their face and prove them otherwise, because there's nobody that's going to sit there and tell me that I'm not good enough, because I know that I am through the work that I put in daily on a daily basis, because that can't be faked. It can't be lied. It can't be lied about. It's something that we both have put the time in to achieve that level of success. So you can now stick your middle fingers up at the people that are telling you you're not good enough, because you know that they're wrong.
Yeah. And literally in my case, go and tell them to fuck off in reality.
And I love that you did that.
Oh no, I actually did.
I know, yeah,
but no, I mean, joking aside, but it comes from, like you say, the successful mindset and making sure that, you know, that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to just work behind a bar and be told that I'm an idiot by some manager that doesn't really have a clue and lives in a terrible house and just hasn't really got much going for her. And, you know, from that then works as a benefit to a mindset switch that goes, no, you know what? Actually, no, I don't want to take this anymore.
Well, it's another, like you said, successful trait is that unwillingness to accept failure. You're not willing to accept what people are telling you. And this applies not just to sort of like the reputation side, the unwillingness to accept failure in a job that's gone wrong, or in a business decision that went bad, or a relationship that's failed. You're unwilling to actually accept that failure, and you're looking to be as resourceful as possible to be able to solve that issue. And again, touching on it there is resourcefulness. Another big trait of people that have a successful mindset is that resourcefulness. They'll find a way. They don't take no for an answer. You know, they'll always look for a route to get something done. Whereas most people, again, I hate to sort of generalize people now, but this is why we're doing this podcast. It's to talk about these things that people aren't doing, and actually sort of reroute them and sort of restructure their mindset to actually go, is that me? Am I doing those things? Because if you are, you will never be successful, because if you aren't resourceful, if you're not determined, if you're not sort of confident in your conviction, you're not going to get there. You know, we're on that journey. We are successful now, and we will continue to become more successful because we continue to do more of the things it takes to be a success.
Yeah. And just don't, you know, they teach a lot of it, just been victim mentality. And it's like, it just doesn't do anything other than just suppress yourself. You know, you gotta, you know, like a flower, bloom out of it, and just stop seeing things as, you know, problem, like victim mentality. It drives me mad.
I hate it. I think everybody's starting to switch now, though. The one thing that I am starting to see is a bit of a saving grace. Yeah, you Gen Zs that are coming up, and the people that are starting to, you know, 10, 11, 12, even sort of teenagers now, we're starting to see such a mindset switch. And I don't know who's responsible or what's responsible, but what I'm seeing, I love it. It's so nice and refreshing now to see young people that are really interested in starting business, that are looking for success, and that are actively doing something about their future well ahead of time, rather than leaving school and then joining a university just for the sake of it being the done thing, spending $100,000 on a course that they'll never use in their life, and digging that hole deeper. You know, it's something that a lot of Gen Z and younger are starting to actually get into business. So again, sort of, I think a really important one that everybody that's successful sort of does, that I recognize, and we've talked about it again before, because you'll see a lot of recurring themes, is having those goals. Set 1 year goals, 3 year goals, 5 year goals, and actually be crystal clear in what they are, because otherwise you're just sort of floating in the wind. You don't really know where you're going. And you have to be specific about what you want, but also why you want it as well.
Yeah. And I think getting the right, I mean, touched on universities, getting the right education. And, you know, neither of us went to university. And I think if we did, we would be in a completely different place and it wouldn't be as good as where we are now.
Debt.
It's a lot of debt. It doesn't work. Well, it didn't work for us. I don't believe it really works. Getting an education through listening to successful people as opposed to someone on, you know, a 35, 40 grand salary who's actually not successful themselves.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think I'd say the final one for me that I think that successful people have is they understand value. And what I mean by that is value is something that we all offer to people. And the more value that we can give to a larger audience of people, the more that we'll see back in return. So it's about understanding if you can solve a problem for people, if you can solve a big enough problem. Let's look at some of the examples, whether it was PayPal. A lot of people don't know this. Elon Musk was one of the co-founders of PayPal. And before PayPal came about, people would have to queue up in banks. They would spend hours waiting for them to deposit money. If they needed to make a payment, they would have to write a check, which might take 3 days to clear. Transferring money between accounts would take days. And he spotted a problem that this could be done more efficiently. It could be done better. And he realized that with an online service that could take place instantly, this switch between money would help so many people. In fact, the precise number of people that it would help is literally every human on planet Earth would benefit from this system. And so it's a large problem that helps a large number of people. So the value that he gets from that in return was something in the hundreds of millions. And he owned a sort of percentage enough to pay himself, I think, sort of 40, 50 million. Don't quote me on the exact numbers. But because he's gone through that sort of, you know, spotting a problem, creating value for people, he's generated that money back in return. And that's something that successful people are incredible at doing, spotting opportunity, creating value for people, and understanding that the only way they'll ever make a success of anything in their own life is by offering as much value as they possibly can to other people.
Yeah. And you get it with, you know, Amazon, and again, reducing the friction, making it easier to get books and then online services, or Elon Musk again with his rockets where he's made them reusable and saving money and making it again an invaluable commodity. It is, like you've said, value. And the more you can add, and that's again personally as well. So if you can have a mindset which you want to improve yourself, to increase your value, that's the most important thing.
Cool. Right then. Thank you very much for watching another episode of Brothers in Business podcast. What I'd love to challenge each of you who are watching this to do is think about some of the mindsets that we've actually discussed in this video and see if you can take on any of them, see if some of them already apply to you. And if you actually have any that we might have missed, by all accounts, get in touch, let us know, because I'd love to hear more that we can share with people in a potential future episode. But for me, I'm Tyler Barker.
I'm Cody Barker.
And thanks for watching.